Alrighty, folks. Welcome back to week 6 of college Call of Duty. I'm joined by Mick, and again, I'm going to be outclassed with the facial hair. The CCL facial hair here, it's top notch. And I'm over here baby faced as all get out. I can't compete. I cannot compete. But Mick, first time being on the desk with you, man. It's a pleasure. Really looking forward to this matchup tonight. But how are things going with you?
Hey man, it's going all right. We're doing what we can, and to mention off the facial hair, I see chat a lot. They're only talking about how it's only on the neck. You're giving me a
That's
little too
true.
much credit compared to what they do, but overall, I appreciate it.
That's I didn't think of it that way, but yeah, that's funny stuff. So I just wish I had the facial hair. I can't grow it. But we get into this matchup, and we just saw Purdue Gold take a pretty commanding 3-1 win over St. Clair over on the Alpha stream. It was Concord Maroon in 3-0 fashion. Now we look ahead here to JCSU and VCU in this second matchup of the night, and you can see the map count on the top there and what we'll be playing. But I mean, this is one different from the first match. There's some pretty serious implications on the line here.
Yep.
For JCSU, Johnson C. Smith University. A win is going to help you get into that top tier of the split when that starts to take place next week. And then on the other side for VCU, you're trying to maintain what has been a really strong season so far at 7-2. Our first map's going to be rated hardpoint for VCU, 4-0 on the map and mode. JCSU, on the other hand, 1-2. And we were just talking about communication. So I think the question I want to pose to you, what is going to be the key for JCSU? And I think communication is obviously one of them. If you could bring us inside, what is that going to sound like from their side of things, like trying to win this map when you're the underdog?
Well, when it comes to JCSU and trying to establish yourself on raid, with it being such a large map, you have to get those rotations down. I mean, there's our point in times where it's okay to give up that point. It's okay to give up that momentum on point in those early rounds as long as you can put yourself ahead when it comes to these next couple. Get yourself in those rotation areas, lock these guys out of the spawns, and go ahead and get the next hill so you can commit to that full time. Because overall, you can get one guy to contest. Meanwhile, if you have three setting up somewhere else, it's going to buff out eventually. So I feel like that's what JCSU has to do. They have to sit there and look at the long terms of the game rather than just looking at, a very one-dimensional plane and figure out, hey, we need to get points. There's more ways to it than that.
Absolutely. Gonna have to communicate rotations and the timing of the rotations too. So important as we're already jumping into things. Not a lot of time to waste here in the new meta. You got the QBZ in play. It's Zay being the first one to lay down 2 quick kills with the headshots. And already this is a good start. So maybe a chance to get some map control, but a couple kills back in favor of VCU will slow things down for the time being. Still though, Johnson C. Smith able to get 7 seconds. As we know, it's pretty scrappy here on P1 before the rotation to the kitchen.
Yeah, especially with the way that this P1 set up, it's so easy for guys to play Ring Around the Rosie with each other and never really get eyes on each other and get to those engagements that they're looking for in order to get that establishment and that dominance on point. JCSU getting a strong start right there, but VCU just finally finding a way to infiltrate that, get some mid-control going on, and find a way to push onto this as we see Jimmy and Ventric just doing a really good job of finding their way onto the point as they already had these guys set up in the kitchen. They're noticing that we only got 10 seconds left. Let's go ahead and get it on to the next one. And JCSU already seem like they're being a little bit slow to this next point.
Little slow to the next point. The battle for the scrap time was in favor of VCU, but more importantly, they have the setup for this next hill. Sheik on the back end is going to have 3 players in line here. He gets the first, gets the second, and he might try to make it 3 onto Rambo here as he re-challenges. Not going to happen. So a big opening on the back end here from Rambo to maybe make a pinch happen. You see his teammates spawning up near open steps. There's 1 player on the hill for VCU as the push starts to come in. Ventric able to pick up Rambo on the backside. Tempest now getting onto the point. He's got some support. He falls finally, and Sheik with 2 kills. It's a bloodbath on the hill as finally VCU are able to get in and grab some control.
Yeah, it is indeed a bloodbath, and it's looking like it's in VCU's favor right here. JCSU did have an opportunity to be on that point if they had Rambo sitting in the back, buying out time a little bit more rather than getting into those engagements and waiting for his team to win that gunfight right there. I feel like it could have been a lot more influential. But overall, there's only so much you can control when these guys are looking at these spawns back there already setting up. And speaking of setting up, we already got Ventric setting up for this P3 already with, the rest of VCU kind of slacking behind, but it's looking like he's going to be able to handle his own over here.
Trying to be a nuisance as he waits for reinforcements from his squad. The setup intact here for JCSU is going to be VCU trying to break. Sheik around the outside by the AC. Going to come into an engagement here with Zay. QBZ versus Craig, and it's QBZ coming out on top. The kill feed lights up blue. So far, a solid hold here on P3 here for JCSU. Trying to come back into this game as VCU have started off here with a little bit of a lead.
Yeah, and overall, that's exactly what it comes down to when you're talking about these kill feeds and everything. I mean, I sit there and I can talk about how kills aren't important all day, but whenever it really comes down to it, if you can sit there and start reading that kill feed like a book, if it's one color, and another on the other side, just from top to bottom, I mean, it's going to actually matter at that point if your whole team's wiped out in comparison to the other side. So, but talking about other side, we are going to see P3 already going around to P4 on the other side of the map, as they're going to have to sit there and set up on basketball court, which is a huge long haul for these JCSU guys because they're looking for that scrap time, trying to buff it out right here. Maintain as close as a divide as possible. But whenever you're sitting there setting that up, I mean, you have one man who's going to have to sit there and run a country mile in order to sit there and, coordinate with his team compared to these other guys who are already so clustered up and ready.
Right, JCSU able to grab time there in the garage hill, but it's the long trek over to basketball court. A couple kills coming through. Tempest will be the first one to try to break in. He's got a contest coming from the hut in support on the backside from Crook. Able to slow things down for the time being. It's just coming one by one here. You got to hit it as a team if you're JCSU. Finally, they're able to do that. Rambo isn't able to get the second kill. So still, VCU is going to continue to tick up this time. 97, almost going on 100 points here. They're trading blows so far in this one, but final 15 seconds, we'll get ready to rotate towards the middle of the map.
Yeah, it's really interesting looking at the way these guys are rotating around the map. Obviously, VCU, they're just doing a great job holding down, but JCSU, it seems as if their push isn't exactly coordinated enough. These guys are doing a great job of getting this mid control right now for this P5, but when it comes to the outer edges of the map and trying to infiltrate that basketball court, it seems like there's way too many wild cards and too many guys trying to isolate themselves right there, too confident in their own ability, which, I mean, albeit it's never really a bad thing, but you need to know who you're opposing, and if you're facing the likes of Vendrick right now, or, even Sheik, even who's, just neutral right now, even then, that's enough of a threat against these guys who, for the most part, aren't exactly getting those kills down and getting able a chance to contest against these other guys of VCU.
Absolutely. The coordination has to be there, and I feel especially on this hill, too. Like, you need to be hitting it as a squad. If you hit these individual pushes, it's not going to work out. JCSU doing a good job at making their way back into this game. They're almost tying this one before we get to our next set of rotations. The clock continues to tick up in their favor. Rambo, 19 and 11 with that kill on a streak. Make it 4. That is a huge kill for him. Down to 1 health, but he will fall on that streak, so he's not able to get anything going. Now we go to our next set of rotations. It's all square here as we get to this next set.
Man, that's a real shame right there because I'm sure these guys right there, when you're on P5 rotating back to P1 with how close it is, if you have good enough of a setup on P5 and you have enough guys watching the right angles and being able to maintain the vision that they need in order to lock down P1 while being on P5, I mean, it's almost like Crossroads at that point. You can sit there and lock down the next point just by, establishing yourselves on the previous one just well enough. So overall, it's a shame they sat there and fell down those last couple seconds because if they had maintained it, we saw them having that great control, those great eyes over P1 there, and they just gave that up. And honestly, it's working out for them now as they found a way to retaliate. But overall, I mean, that's such a huge influential shift right there.
Not a big rotation from mid to the ring. You're absolutely right. But stringing things together now are JCSU. They've got themselves in the lead as the underdogs in this matchup, coming in at 5-4. Compared to VCU being 7-2 in this matchup. We make another rotation over here to the kitchen. It'll be VCU now playing from behind, and you got Timmy already set up, holding down the backside. The spawns are going to be so deep. It's Rambo who's in a big spot for JCSU, the only player, and he might not be known. His location isn't known right now. He's waiting for his opportunity to strike as his teammates push to the front. They're going to fall. Now it comes. Rambo from the backside trying to clean up the kills. And still playing the patient game, waiting for some support. He's going to get picked up by Ventrick. The hold's going to continue here for VCU. That's a big kill in the back. I mean, everything's happening at the front. You're cleaning it up. To get that kill at the back is going to maintain a very solid hold.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're looking for at this point. VCU, once they sit there and get the slack over there on P1 and aren't able to maintain as much control as they did that first time around, they're looking for ways where they can make that the slack. They're looking for ways where they can hold it down, but it's looking like JCSU's finally finding their stride here, locking down this P3 extremely well so far, already being ready for them. Even though they got all those points over there on P2, it's looking like they're already looking for scrap time. Not able to maintain it as well as they thought overall, but Zay may be able to be the one that these guys are looking for to get it at.
My goodness, the shots from Zay. Rambo all of a sudden up to double positive at 28-14 on a little 3-kill streak now again. Trying to make something happen as Kane switched to the Diamati and cleans up the rest of the kills. Another solid hold. It's a game of rotation so far in this one. JCSU doing exactly that. Ventric finding a couple. Still 40 seconds to battle for on this hill, and it's going to be Ventric pushing through again. Only one player to deal with. The second's going to be in Waits. He's finding that kill. It's a huge one. VCU are going to get the rest of this 30 seconds, it could seem like, to try to bring themselves back into this game again. It's just been so back and forth, playing near tied from the get-go.
Exactly. And I mean, I have no complaints here with it being a back and forth game. These are the ones that you love to see. These are the ones where teams really get a lot of information when you say what you love referring to, the drawing board. They sit there, they have so much resources to work with in that situation. We see with that back and forth right now, JCSU's obviously been looking at it for a while because these guys are really bringing in the competition for, you know, being the underdogs in this situation. They may have slacked a little bit there in the front end, but I think they finally caught their stride. And as I said, looked at the long term and the long scheme of things, finding out a way to get that domination over in the later stages of the game. Because right now, I mean, you can sit there and we've seen plenty of kind of deficits be brought back before, and maybe JCSU may be able to do that in terms of records.
It's going to be VCU trying to bring back the deficit this time, down by 20 points. As the score continues to go in favor of JCSU, Rambo maintaining his display of performance right now. 32-16, has been on a few different streaks in this match. Trying to play for these streaks after all. It's a couple players working something right now. Finally, VCU able to get through on the backside, and they could be able to bring this one to about 200 to 212 score line before this next rotation. And I mean, you look at the deciding factor in this one, it's tough to pick out. I think it has to be Rambo right now for JCSU, doing everything at 35-16. Now he gets those streaks. That could play crucial in this matchup. This might be an opportunity to use him here.
Oh, yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because Raymond was the man I had my eyes on, which not purely just because of the fact that we had our, you know, spectator looking at him. Overall, just looking at his KD ratio right now,
oh my God,
the dude's kind of insane. I mean, it almost feels like he's going to sit there and need a back brace for this, but it's how he's carrying in terms of these kills right now because, I mean, you can only do so much. I mean, K's doing a great job when you look at that objective time, saying that he's the one with most of those points overall. But when it really comes down to it, how well Rambo is not only holding objective time, but how he's able to maintain those kills, lock down the site that he's on, and find a way to, you know, create that fighting force, almost like a one-man army in a sense.
40-18, trying to continue it there, is going to fall. This one comes down to the wire. A deadlocked game as we get ready for another rotation to P1. You can see on your mini-map the blue squad already set up to hold this thing down. Rambo picking up on a huge read here to turn around and play the backside. Finds one kill onto Ventric. Can he get the second? That would be too much to ask. He's got Zay in support, finding this information, trying to pick up the kill on a Crook. The shot's no good. The nade might be, and it doesn't find the kill, so now has to help his teammate on the point, and it's not looking good right now for JCSU. VCU able to get the break. They should be in a good spot to maybe close this one out.
Yeah, I think right there, JCSU got a little bit too big for their britches overall. They sat there, you had too many guys isolating themselves outside the point. They weren't looking to lock down that point and take advantage of their teammates and the fact that Rambo was just going off so well. He may be going out there on a little tangent, getting his own little kills and going on his own little adventures of himself. But overall, you need to sit there, and while he's picking those fights, you need to be getting those points and making his work not absolutely pointless overall. That was the winning point right there with how back and forth it was going. And if you don't sit there and sit on that point and fight for that, it's not exactly going to go in your favor. And I think that's where JCSU, as well as they competed over the course of the game, they weren't able to pull it out right there.
An incredible first map, and yeah, you're right. JCSU was in the lead for the majority of that. It was VCU kind of playing from behind, and finally in the moments at the end, they're able to strike back and get the dub. Despite Rambo going double positive with more than 40 kills, it's the Rams who play the rotations, play the mind games, and pick up map 1, 250 to 232. But I mean, as we start to turn our attention to the next map in our S&D, I do like Moscow quite a bit. It's one of the more entertaining, I think. And after what we just saw in map 1, this one is pretty tightly contested. So I think we're in for another good one.
Yeah, I completely agree. When you're looking at the likes, I mean, I feel like Hardpoint, as much as it is influential to go ahead and give your team that breathing room up front, it also gives you a really good scouting opportunity to see exactly who you need to be looking for in terms of targets and who to look for when it comes to the search and destroys. And I'm sure right now, VCU is probably scared as heck of Rambo right now, because when you go into likes of search and destroy, you don't have a chance to respawn and come back and say, all right, I'll get him. I know exactly where he is. You're out for the round. So, I mean, overall, you need to sit there and be looking at, I mean, I know you don't get too much of an opportunity to sit there and know where guys are, but if you get killed by this man, you need to be on point with your calls, knowing where he's planning on going next, because you have to be ready for that. Otherwise, he's going to be getting full wipes and getting plenty of streaks to play with this time around.
Rambo is a PTP, a primetime player, really was carrying JCSU in that first match, and he's going to have to do it again. You're right. If you're VCU, you need to be paying attention to where Rambo is on the map and killing him first if you can, because, I mean, that guy was just a problem in map 1, despite the fact that his team gets the loss. We'll head to map 2, and as we look at the stats, I think, again, this one's going to favor VCU. 7-4 in Search and Destroy so far. On the other side, JCSU 4-8 in Search and Destroy. That is not promising. It's going to be Moscow, like we said. What do you like in Moscow? Is this one of your favorites? I think for me, it is one of my favorites. I don't know. It's nothing really in Search and Destroy is all that favorable right now. It feels like with no smokes and snipers, the mode in general is kind of in a weird state. But what do you think about Moscow, S&D?
That's what I was gonna bring up, man. The snipers. I love Moscow when it comes to the snipers and the kind of avenues you can bring up with that. But with the fact they're out of the game right now, I'm usually more of a fan of like when it comes to the likes of Garrison and influentially and kind of surprisingly Checkmate, because it really shows what these guys are capable to like pull in terms of gunfights. There's not too many forceful areas. There's not too many ways to maneuver yourself around the map without being seen and allowing all those stealthy plays. So it really shows what these guys are capable of in terms of gunfights. When it comes to Moscow, there is a little more room to work with. If you don't have guys set up on Eskies, if you don't have anybody set up over there in the courtyard, there's going to be a lot of avenues for these guys to sneak around and go for that objective. But from what I've seen so far, you know, for these past couple of days and these past couple matches that I've casted for, it doesn't seem like anybody really cares about the bomb that much. It seems like they're just trying to close out these rounds, get those kills, and just close out the round and get it over with to go ahead and close the game out. And that may be what VCU's looking for if they want to speed this up by any means.
I've described it a couple times this year as team deathmatch with no respawns is what Search and Destroy feels like at this point. And I think Moscow is one of those maps that really brings that to light. You usually just see teams go right to A, waste 0 time, take the challenges, and the rounds end pretty quickly. We'll see if that's the same thing that happens in this one. But I always draw it back, too, on Moscow Search and Destroy to egos and confidence. And he's always talk about ego chals and having a gunny and having the movement being cracked, right? Like that's the topic of conversation all the time. That's what people ask you. Are you cracked? And it really is the question. That if yes or no, that's how you know if someone's good or not. But I think that's what it comes down to on Moscow Search and Destroy. Who is more confident in taking some of those challenges where you know there's probably going to be a player with their sights ready to go on you. You have to have the movement. You have to have that crack so you can get around the corner and still pick up the kills. Like I think this is where you kind of see like the skill level on full display.
Yeah, and you know, I can agree with you in a sense. I'm not a big advocate of doing crack, but you know, it is what it is. Man.
I should definitely give a disclaimer there. I appreciate the disclaimer.
But overall, I mean, I'm completely with you, though. I mean, these guys need to learn how to play those engagements and learn how to play their lives as best as possible. Because in Hardpoint, I do want to point out that JCSU, as well as Rainbow, may have been doing in those situations with those streaks. He did die quite a bit as well. So when you're looking at how these guys, there's engagements that they were getting bloody, they were getting their HP down, but they were considering, oh, maybe I can win this gunfight still. When it comes around to Search, you don't have that avenue to sit there and consider, oh, maybe I can sit there and come back from this. You need to sit there and say, all right, maybe if I can get this pick, if I win a 2v or a 1v2 in that sense, I can go ahead and make out with 1 kill, just maneuver around somewhere, heal up a little bit, even distract the enemy in that sense to where they're going to have to figure out where the heck I am rather than saying, okay, I need to go engage him because there's going to be a bomb in play and you can't exactly waste that time.
Exactly, as we talked about before the map started, A is probably going to be where the battle takes place, and in this first round, not wasting any time, trades back and forth in the feed is going to leave it in a 2v3 situation. Offense with the 3 lives might have an opportunity to deal one early here. Rambo picking up where he left off in that first map is going to try to have another heater here. They're going double positive. The bomb going to go down here from Tempest. It's a good position for the offense. The defense on this post plant are going to have to try to make a break together through one side. It looks like they'll do it from the back of the apartments. Krook going to lay some eyes on a Rambo. Rambo playing his life, realizing that the push is coming from this backside. He has to relay that to his teammates. And already 30 seconds left to get this defused. It's not looking good.
Yeah, and especially when you're looking at the likes of A, I feel like that's why so many guys love this side, because once you get that bomb down, you're almost like Obi-Wan. You have the high ground. We're just looking at it geographically. You have to go through escalators. You have to go through the outside P2 for Hardpoint. We're in that courtyard over there closer to those apartments. I mean, there's nothing but just downhill from that point. It's on such a higher level to where if you sit there, there's no real ways to flank this if you had the resources to allocate. And JCSU had enough men to set up every single kind of point. I mean, they may have engaged there on the back a little bit. I mean, VCU could have taken a different stance from that and found a different avenue to push up from. But overall, if it's not a full flank, you're not going to get the full kind of, reward out of that. And you're not going to get as much utilization out of your push overall. So in that situation, JCSU making the best call they could. And overall, just getting a strong first round to show that, they're not out of this yet.
Another battle at A to start this one off, and they trade 2 for 2. Now Tempest, a chance to maybe try to make a little flank push up the escalators. As a player to his left, you might be hearing the footsteps or something. Seems to have some inclination that there's a player nearby. No shots coming through just yet. He does take the challenge on the outside, and Falster. Kruk leaves his teammate here, Kays, in a 1v2. He still has to get the bomb down. Gonna lay eyes on a Kruk and get the first kill. The second one, the reads come through. The shots on the Sheik don't matter. And VCU is able to trade that first round win with one of their own. Big time stuff. In the end, it comes down to a 1v1, and we see this final gunfight from Sheik's point of view. The shots are good. He goes all the way down to a sliver. That's got to hurt if you're JCSU.
Oh, easily, because when you're in that sense to where these guys, especially when we saw that, they were pushing up, Tempest tried to win the engagement, win that 2v1. But overall, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to get that. And he didn't even end up getting one of those kills, which is a huge issue for them when you're looking at the likes of putting that man. I mean, you can sacrifice a man usually when it comes down to, a 4v4. All right, but...
What in the world?
Yeah.
We got a streaker on the field.
Yeah, but we're not even in CCL we're not big fans of that, but we can it's easier to end the game. We can't exactly pause life when it comes to those larger in-person matches. But overall, when you break it down, talking about that last round, when you're put in that situation of a 2v2, you can't, I mean, I get it. You want to be the hero. You want to sit there and, get the engagement and say, all right, good shit, Tempest. You sat there and you locked it down. But 9 times out of 10, you're not going to be able to win those trades. You need to sit there and play into your teammate, because if you lose that, think about it. In that case, you're putting that other man in a 2v1 situation, and he's probably going to lose it as well. So you need to be playing as partners in that point. Think of it like gunfight, Tori. You can't sit there and by any chance have any kind of room for mistakes, because in gunfight, I mean, you got completely random weapons you're dealing with. Meanwhile, on this, these guys have been playing with these weapons for weeks now. They have established themselves. They have sat there and know the recoil patterns at this point. They know how the gun works, and almost feels like home for them to put it in their hands. And you're probably not going to be as advantageous as you would in another 2v2 situation.
You're absolutely right, and I feel like I play into that as well. Like, it's so difficult at times to not take some of the challenges and to wait for your teammates to give you support. Like, we're so trained, it feels like, in Call of Duty to be playing respawn public matches where if you die, there's no consequence, just spawn back up and keep running, that you just keep taking challenge after challenge. But really, I mean, when you get into these competitive situations, the CCL, like, this is the real deal stuff. You got teammates around you, you're communicating. Sometimes you have to back down and look for some support, look for your reinforcements. And oftentimes, that's the team that has the advantage, whichever team is playing more coordinated, more cohesive, like we talk about. So we try to get this lobby reset again. It was 1-1 before we get the stoppage. Somebody just wanted to join up and take part in the fun. You can't blame him, I guess, for that. So we'll get things going again.
I don't think he paid his entry dues. I think that was the only issue. We have nothing against some. We have nothing against some public lobby fun here, but overall, I mean, you got to know the rules, man. We got things G8 in here, and you got to know those rule sets coming in.
Absolutely. Can't have it. So we'll reset the match and we'll get things going again. But again, it's just search and destroy here. VCU picks up the first win in map 1. Really come from behind fashion. I think if you're JCSU, you have a lot to take away from it in terms of positives. But now you try to tie the series up at 1 apiece. It's Moscow search and destroy, and it'll be 1-1 when we get things going again. I mean, A is the push on offense. You see everybody doing it, winning the trades, and that last round it was 2-2. What if there is another strategy that you might see a team use? What might it be? Like, I know obviously to go to B, but like what do you have to do? What do you have to do if you want to make that happen? If you want to go to B?
You need to throw a curveball these guys' way. I mean, it's just straight pitches all around. These guys are rushing right up towards A side. They're coming right down that side lane and just trying to win those trades. But you need to usually think of it like hardpoint in a sense, where you have a man who's confident in himself. Give him those opportunities to shine. Just not in a 2v2 situation. I mean, overall, I mean, it's great for you to have a man who's going to sit there and step up. But if he's going to do that, do it in the early round when you know you have a man advantage, when you know you are equal in numbers, compared to later where that could be detrimental to your team. Because say you sit there and have a guy rushing through mid, going around the courtyard, and going back to where these guys are usually trying to retake A. If they sit there and come from that kind of point of view, or come around from the side on B side, I mean that A, if they see a man on B bomb, they're going to say, okay, maybe this is B push, maybe this A is a distraction. That creates mental confusion. Or you sit there and have that man continue to make that push, come around from the flank on A, get 1 or 2 kills overall. Then that creates more mental confusion. Do they have more guys coming this way, or was this purely a distraction? There's so much to sitting there and having one little wild card. You never know the potential of what it could hold. And that's always going to put the opposing side on their toes to allow you to get that momentum and allow you to give yourself that advantage. And I don't think enough people utilize that enough. And it even shows in control when you have 2 sites to play with. Everybody commits to one full thing, then shifts over. And it's too readable in that case.
I agree. I really do. Like, so often you just see teams pushing the same bomb sites in search and destroy, and I get it that it's the more favorable and it makes maybe your probability is higher. But search and destroy is your only opportunity in a series, like really your only opportunity to play mind games, like you're talking about, to get in the head of your opponent. And I think that's what's so fun about esports in general, is trying to outsmart your opponent. Like, oh, you thought I was going to go this way, but I went the other way and I got the kill, and now I'm shooting your body. Like, how does it feel? Trash talk, all that stuff. Anytime I feel like you can be outsmarting your opponent, that has to feel like you really have the leg up. Because, I mean, we know that, like we're talking about aim assists, and like it's pretty easy to shoot your gun straight. And yeah, everybody can slide cancel. But when it comes to those clutch moments, round 11s, making that high risk, high reward play can often be the deciding factor. I think oftentimes we just don't see it enough. So hopefully maybe when we get back into this one, these teams can slow it down a little bit and employ some more of the IQ plays that we like to see. And I'm hearing from the back end, I might need that one repeated. Are we going to a break here, or what's up with this lobby? So we're trying to get the lobby sorted out here. We had a player join in, trying to get in on the fun. You can't blame him, I guess, for that. But we'll take a very short break. Grab some water if you need it. Don't go too far, because this one won't last long. We'll be right back with Moscow Search and Destroy. Tried to tell you it wouldn't be too long of a break. Welcome right back in here, and to update you on the situation at hand. Did have a player join into the lobby, and it is going to result in a forfeit. So the series goes to 1-1. Got to be closing up that lobby. Turn it to invite only. Stuff like that can totally happen in Call of Duty. So JCSU are going to pick up the map win on a formality, and we'll head to Garrison Control. And that means we will actually get to see Moscow Hardpoint at some point as well. But we turn to Garrison Control. We already saw it in the first matchup tonight. Defensive favored map, as always, in Control, but especially here on Garrison. How do you kind of see this one shaking out, Mick, after what we saw in the first map?
Looking at that first map, I feel like it's going to be really close, and I feel like these guys are going to be playing in that defense a lot, but I feel like each team has a full potential to kind of make a push on a point, get at least one of those sites down. I mean, that's usually a given. But once you get around to that second side, especially when you're looking at the likes of B and A, once you get around to that A side, it is so hard to lock down with how easily those spawns and how close they are to that site, and how much those attackers have to run in order just to get a chance to get on that site. Overall, if you don't allocate a little bit of extra time to make a flank or come through bricks or something like that, compared to, as we see Electric right there, I mean, overall, you're not going to sit there and get a huge payout, because you're always going to have guys sitting there on top crate right there next to spawn. You're going to have guys sitting on that staircase. You're going to have guys in brick. You're going to have guys literally everywhere, it feels like, if you're not cautious and looking and checking those angles and fragging them out and using your utilities to their full capacity.
Yeah, and I mentioned the formality situation. It makes sense because JCSU, as we mentioned at the top, very, very important match for them. They're still trying to get into that top part of the split once it takes place, and the hard point was in favor of VCU in terms of the stats. The Control is a different story. JCSU 8-1 in this game mode, so this is their bread and butter. We'll see if they can capitalize on the opportunity after picking up map 2. But so far, kills in favor of VCU. As you got Tempest here, the last one who doesn't get spot out. He might be in an opportunity to get in behind. He is going to climb up at the right time. Nobody sees him here, and he's going to take the opportunity to get onto A.
Wow, that's a really smart move by Tempest right here, because when you sit there and get that A establishment, as you're going to see, look at the minimap right now, they got 2 guys allocating themselves on VCU to go over to that site, find a way to contest it as best as possible. But if you're on the other side of JCSU right now, you are saying, all right, push B as quick as possible. Get as many guys down as you can over there. Find a way to lock this down as best as possible. Get lights on shutdown. Find ways to just lock these guys out. And Zay's already on the move and finding ways to do that.
Draw some attention to A and then make your opportunity at B happen. Here comes the push from JCSU. 3 kills in the feed. That's going to be good for control for the time being as they try to get the ticks together. They have players on both points making progress right now. Tempest in the back line is going to fall to Sheik in a gunfight that he probably could have won. Krig versus SMG. Krig comes out on top. B, though, 2 ticks of progress now through for JCSU. That's a good start, but the kills come through from VCSU. Or, I'm sorry, VCU. There's a lot of SCUs going on here. But VCU, big time stuff to get them off this point. Only 2 ticks of progress. Now they have a chance to push out and get this map control back in their favor. It's not over just yet.
Yeah, and overall, you know, I feel like it's definitely not over. Even though these guys on JCSU, they're not exactly pushing on this point right now. They are getting this control right here, as we're going to see Kaze and Timmy kind of pop up against each other. Overall, though, I'm just loving the way JCSU is playing this. They're playing this exactly like I usually lay control out. They're utilizing both points, not only just as a way to get some time, but they're utilizing them as distractions as well, because that's going to come out in their favor as they're going to grab B point right here. But this is where it gets a lot tougher now, because they're going to only be looking at A site. You don't have that wild card anymore to say, okay, now I can go over to B and go over to A, and they're never going to find a way to allocate their guys perfectly. But in this stage in the game now, they do have a setup which looks like it could be in their favor, because you got guys watching every single angle. You see them all over their spawns, and Rambo just shutting them out, saying, no, you guys want to go for A this time around, but if I'm set up on this point, you always know how I performed on hard point. So, I mean, it ain't going to come around to it again.
My goodness, Rambo picking up where he left off in map 1, up to an 8 kill streak. He's got both in pocket, and JCSU with a commanding first round win. Take it there to open things up. And you're right, they didn't just go to B off the rip. They threw some distractions out there. They hit A, they hit B back and forth. Caused a lot of problems for VCU. Didn't know how to allocate the bodies. They weren't necessarily ready for it. And then Rambo here in a huge spot, deep in the spawns, picking up all these kills, going on the streaks. He's going to have those in his pocket that could come in pretty crucial later on in this match. We talk about winning offenses as being pretty important. They're able to do it in the first round. That's big momentum as we head into the next one.
Yeah, and I feel like that's exactly what JCSU's looking for right now, especially when they know how to throw those wild cards into the mix right there. They know how to get around. They know how to, you know, get those flanks, make those distractions come. I feel like their setup's going to be a lot more solid, because they should know how to adapt to their own play style. At least we're hoping so, and we can assume so. So you already see Crook already trying to push up here on lights, trying to make it push towards A. Rambo not able to exactly see Sheik, but now he's going to follow up on it. And now they see these guys on B side. They're going to find a way to contest that. But they still have to look over on A, and they still have to worry about old Rambo, who's got these streaks going and is only going to look to continue the momentum.
Rambo, so difficult to keep up with, constantly moving around the map, and now in the spawn, finding kills. Make the streak 10 for this fella right now. Absolutely out of his mind. 13-4 in the match as he finally falls. Zay trying to pick up with his footsteps for some spawn kills. It's not going to happen. Krook able to find an opening here, and this is going to be VCU trying to push out as a team, continuing to find some of these rats in the spawn. Tempest will be the next one to fall in that situation. Rambo here holding things down at B, picking up where he left off on that last kill streak. Now 15-4. Climbing up from behind again. It's like, where is he? It's so hard to keep a read on him. He's got cold-blooded on or something. Continuing to put the pressure on, and it's tough for VCU to get any map control.
It's genius. Just the way that JCSU is playing this, I'm surprised they're not higher ranked up right now, because the way they're playing control, I am loving it. They're not ever laying out anything too static. They're not sitting there saying, okay, let's push spawns. Okay, let's hold points. They're saying, let's sit there and evenly allocate ourselves across the map where we all have kind of eyes on each other. And if a man's got to sit there and throw some kind of chaos into the wind, let Rambo be that man. Because overall, we're going to be set up on these points. We're going to be allocated while he's making this push on the spawn, while he's being that wild card everybody's scared of. We can be changing our positions and changing these call-outs 24/7 anywhere else in the map, allowing us full freedom of how to play this out. And they're already going to close out another round right here with that.
My gosh, someone stop this guy. Another 8 kill streak as he's 21-4. He's farming the kills off spawn. Truly looking like John Rambo on the battlefield. We see it in the kill cam. The shots are there. The movement is there. The positioning, everything in play right now for Rambo is just an absolute wrench in the side of VCU. And they just can't find him, it feels like. They don't know where he is. as he continues to reposition himself so well, and it's a 2-0 start for JCSU, coming hot out of the gates, but it's just jump into the backpack and get ready for the ride, because Rambo, 21-4, is doing everything for his squad.
Funniest thing to me is that this man is just, it's almost a BM not to sit there and use those streaks at this point. You've gotten him 2 or 3 times over at this point, man, and you haven't used a single one of them. He's like, I don't need it. AK-74U is a streak. I don't need to sit there and deal with explosives, this and the other. That's how they deal with flak jackets and all. With this, ain't no way you sitting there and decreasing bullet damage. So overall, just a great attempt by these guys, and the rest of the team just making the most of this. We see even Zay going positive, Tempest doubling his KD right now. Just overall, all these guys doing such a great job of finding ways to set themselves up around the map and constantly keeping VCU on their toes.
Another streak for Rambo here as he's on 9. You're right. Not even calling things in. He's probably asking his teammates at this point, are nukes allowed? Like, this is ridiculous at this point. 23-4. The push comes through here on B. A couple ticks of progress already going up, and now his teammates want to get in on the action, pushing the spawns to pick up some more kills. 27-20 in favor of JCSU as they try to close it out here in 3-0 fashion. They're going to be able to grab B. They turn their focus to A, where they already have some support. Now the streaks come through for Rambo, able to find 2 with the initial barrage, trying to find a 3rd, and he can't make it happen, but he's got more streaks to play with here. The guy is just ridiculous right now. 25-4. Gonna get back in the spawns. The last place you want to see him if you're VCU. 14 kill streak. Oh, make it 15 for Rambo. This guy can't be stopped. Putting on an absolute show here on the Bravo stream as he finally gets picked up. But he's wasted so much time. His teammates are able to get on A. And oh, man, it's back against the wall time for VCU.
Yeah, he's doing this perfectly, as we saw. Even as his teammates were all over there on A side, he knew exactly where to set up. He was going to say, you know what? I'm going to go right back to B. I'm going to set up in lights. And as these guys are going to rotate, why exactly would they look over towards B side? There's no objective over there. There's nobody over there. So why would they care? That's exactly where I'm going to take my time to shine. I'm going to come in. I'm going to move in as quickly and swiftly as possible and buy as much time for my team as possible overall. He's going to sit there and continue to do this in the spawn. But, I mean, besides that, they just didn't have enough lives to deal with it with all those explosions coming in.
32-6.
Oh my god,
6 times positive is how he's going to finish. Somehow Zay was able to steal the kill cam here in the end, but just, I mean, you can't talk about it enough. Rambo for JCSU doing absolutely everything in this map. Carnage, we talked about public matches earlier. That's what it felt like there at times for this JCSU squad as they moved the series to now 2-1. We bring you back to the desk, and VCU grabbed the first win in the first hard point. The Moscow, we have a player join up, and we have a formality, a rule decision that leaves it to JCSU. They take that map to tie it 1 apiece, and then in that control, it just feels like there is no wind in the sails of VCU after getting just destroyed 3-0.
I mean, man, you was talking about crack. Now you got me questioning. I mean, do we have drug tests in the CCL? Is there some moderation we can put on this man? That is not okay what just happened. I mean, going back into hardpoint, I mean, VCU has more than enough capability to bring this back. We see when it comes down to hardpoint, they have a full capability to be, you know, evenly matched in this. It's a very back and forth kind of, and we saw it maybe with Moscow as a kind of big map. Once again, a lot of rotations going on. So I feel like it might actually have the chance to come to that map 5 and go back and net search and destroy. And as long as we don't have any streakers this time around, we should be fine to sit there and see all the maps play out and get a real tense one.
Boy, is it going to be good as VCU was able to grab the first win there in map 1, but you turn your attention to Moscow hardpoint, and this is going to be another one that favors Johnson C. Smith University. You look at the records in Moscow, 3-0 so far. They haven't taken a loss. For VCU on Moscow, it's not looking too good, 1-3. And I think the big question I have to ask is, like, what does VCU need to do to just get that one out of their mind? Like, what needs to be the key now as you go to Moscow, where it feels like all the momentum is against you? How do you, on maybe your worst hardpoint map, come out and find a win?
Yeah, I mean, overall, I feel like when it comes to hardpoint, especially with Moscow, I mean, these guys, they sat there and contended. They were back and forth when it came to those little rounds we had to see on that search and destroy. Plus, when it came to hardpoint, I mean, overall, they can compete with it. So I think what they should do is play out the confidence, play out the momentum that they have and say, okay, overall, we just need to play it slow. We need to play into the fact that we know hardpoint. We did fine so far against these guys. I mean, everybody's playing their best game right now, it looks like. I mean, the only thing you have to consider is each individual player and how they're competing. And you have to look at those star players, those, PTPs or what is it? I think that was it, right? Yeah, primetime players. Sorry.
Prime time
Told
players.
you,
So
man,
good.
that amnesia is hitting. But overall, I mean, it's just that's what it comes down to is these individual efforts. And if you don't shut down the right guys, find ways to lock them out, I mean, and consider these wild card situations as we saw Rainbow doing such a great job finding ways around the back line, allocating their teams in areas where you wouldn't usually look. Every corner needs to be checked going forward. That's the only thing I have to say to these guys on VCU is you have to check every corner and you need to have multiple guys there. Otherwise, you're most likely going to lose that.
I mean, you talk about PTPs. If there's one that's standing out right now, it's Rambo. And I'm looking up some quotes from the movies. I've seen a lot of the Rambo movies. Really great stuff. Like, I used to watch those with my father all the time. And one of the ones I got here, I could have killed them all. I could have killed you. In town, you're the law. Out here, it's me. Don't push it, or I'll give you a war you won't believe. And that is exactly what Rambo has done so far in this series. Just a war that you can't believe. 6 times positive in that control. I have not seen that so far. A 15 kill streak?
Yeah, he didn't even use them half the time. I got a Pred missile, but I mean, I am a Pred missile. Who needs that?
That would have been an EMP in Modern Warfare 2. Like, it's stuff that I can't fathom at this point. I think for VCU, if you can't get kills onto Rambo here in this next map, you're going to be in for it again because this guy is on a different level right now. That's going to be the key for them as well, to slow down Rambo, who just absolutely torqued them in map 3. But it's going to be a 2-1 series. And JCSU, they're playing for a lot here. They're trying to get into that top part of the split. Did I hear that we might be getting ready to jump into this one, or are we going to head to a break? I'm hard of hearing, but we're going to hang on here. We're almost ready for this next matchup. We'll go to Mother Russia, where we just saw map 2 finish up. And again, it's one where there's so many maps in this game, and maybe it's just something in Call of Duty in general, where there's long distance rotations. From 2 to 3 on this map is another one that's it reminds me of Garage to Basketball and Raid, where you're going across the entirety of the map. And it's not even about, you need to be focused on when you're making your rotations. But, like, that's the key to me, too, is, like, when are you making your rotation? Not only are you making it, but when are you making it? Because if 10, 15 seconds left on the hill, if you die, you can spawn so far from your next hill. And that can be just detrimental to a team. So we'll have to be paying attention to that as well.
And that's a huge thing right there. A lot of these guys, they're never in these larger maps. You see people setting up close to the sites, letting these guys run all their way, which I can understand from a certain standpoint. I mean, there's plenty of ways you can play hardpoint with the fact that you have spawns to consider, you have rotations, you have all those country miles you got to run. And overall, if you sit there, I mean, usually a better idea, what would be for me, at least in my sense, would be set up guys in mid-map when you're on those spots, have guys allocate around the map to set that up and make those stops. And as we said, set up, and what I've seen before and kind of referenced before is the fact is, set up that guy on hardpoint as a final boss. Sit there, put these guys through multiple stages when it comes to those long rotations. Let them, put them on their toes constantly to figure out where the heck are these guys. And if they're picking you off, you're starting from that slow opposite end of the map every single time you die.
I like that a lot, yeah. Cutting the map right in the middle so the team has a harder time to make rotations. We'll have to pay attention to it here and see when these guys decide to chalk a hill once they realize it's going to be a tough break. Is already VCU with a 17-point lead. Tempest trying to make a stop to that. Finds one, looking for the second. His teammate Rambo is going to be in support. And if you're VCU, you're ducking and dodging. As you know, Rambo's on his way. Timmy's just hiding in the corner, and that's no problem for Rambo to find that kill. You get to start to look at these rotations here for the next hard point. And you got number 4 on your minimap way back there, camping out. It's K's, making sure that his team's set up for this next hard point. The final 4 seconds tick through on P1.
Yeah, and I feel like at this point, these guys on JCSU are already set up for this P2. Even though they didn't exactly get as many seconds as they won on that P1, they do already have the setup ready for it. You're going to need Case to sit there and be watching Street a little bit more. I mean, mid is super influential, and they got Zay out there, but, I mean, he's going to be picked off right there. Unfortunately, just blown to smithereens, but has to sit there and you have to get these follow-ups. And we do see these guys, the likes of Rambo and Tempest, being ready to keep the momentum going.
I guess that's what has to happen. You need to team kill him to slow him down. Rambo falls to Tempest on the hill, but he's got support here on the back end from his assault rifle players, holding things down as the push comes through on the street side from VCU. The gun punch in favor of Sheik might be an opening, but he's down to 1 health. Rambo's easily going to clean that one up. A solid hold here on P2 after they lose some time on P1 from JCSU. Now comes the long trek to P3, and they go ahead and start to make this rotation. Can VCU chop them down before they get there? Again, though, you see Kays, who did it just a moment ago on the last hill, already set up so deep. Sheik's going to find that kill onto him. Ventric finds another, and that's a good start for VCU.
A great little setup they had right there. Case was already in the back. He was set up, and as long as he could have hit himself away or won that gunfight, overall, they would have had the advantage. They would have had those spawns to rotate in with and take VCU by storm by flipping them out. But we saw Sheik make the push over there on the edge, win that gunfight, which all in all is giving VCU the upper hand right here when it comes to this long country mile, as I keep on repeating, that they have to make in order to get onto the site. And especially when you see that they're still running, you almost feel like you're forced into a situation where you're locked to run down that side because of how much shorter of a length it is to run, and saying, okay, maybe we just need a guy to run, contest this, because we got to start setting up for this next one. Otherwise, nothing's going to go in our favor.
Really trading at the start here is it was JCSU on P2 picking up a big chunk of time. VCU this time able to put a hold down and get themselves right back into this one as we rotate over to the street. Only 4 hills on this map before we head back to our next set of rotations. Timmy playing the rat hole is going to fall. Rambo, as we know, is just he's guerrilla warfare, right? He uses everything to his advantage. His movement is there. It's all there for Rambo so far in this series, using the little hiding spots in rat as the kills start to come through. Neither team able to grab much time on this hill so far. Now VCU going to win the kill battle, and Ventric laying down by the stop sign in the trash can. He's looking for some support from his teammates to shoot over the top, and he's got it from Sheik so far. Can JCSU get this break as the lead's starting to tick up for VCU? They're doing it on behalf of Ventric here, who's playing his life so well at the stop sign.
Yeah, and I feel like that's exactly what VCU is doing so well. They're not exactly trying to get in those gunfights. They're not saying, okay, we may have been losing them in the past, so let's just slow it down a little bit. Let's just find ways to get on this point. Let's get the advantage. Even if we die, if we're spread out far enough and we're allocating ourselves well onto this site and, you know, just getting trades and just playing the game slow, we're all in all going to win this, because the further we're spread out, the less of an opportunity it gives for these star players to come in and take us by storm. So they're doing this really well. They're really holding this down and, you know, finding ways to just, you know, get those small victories, which all in all are adding up to giving them a 40-point advantage right now.
Playing it more as a team for sure, as you got Kruk taking things in his own hands, 16-7 on a 3-kill streak as he backs up off the hill to try to stay alive. He's going to re-challenge and fall to Tempest. They start to push through P1. We know the rotation to P2 is extremely important. Rambo, 9-7, so slowing down slightly from that last game. Already more deaths than he had in the control. So you got Kays here, who's been the one making the rotations. He's been the big brain player for JCSU, trying to push around through PD. He's got a player underneath that he doesn't lay eyes onto. So they're going to be up top and below. Neither of these players aware of each other's positioning, and finally they're going to come into a contact situation. Sheik wins the gunfight. That's huge for VCU to get this rotation intact. They're going to have the spawns for P2, and they already have the lead.
Yeah, but you always have that one concern in the back of your head, and that's the man wandering around on the street being the front force right now. He's going to try and make a push right there. It being Rambo, and you never know what they're capable of. They are very compressed when you're looking at the likes of JCSU. With Rambo winning that gunfight right there, I mean, the compressed push isn't exactly going to usually be the best option. But regardless, when you're compressed as VCU, I mean, they weren't spread out as they usually are. So that allowed them to go ahead, come in by storm, win those gunfights, and all in all, take this point again by storm. And, I mean, VCU, they didn't have enough guys spread out to come in for these trades and, you know, play guerrilla warfare a little bit better, not knowing where, you know, they are. But if you're all laid out right there in the open, you're going to know exactly where to put your bullets at, and you're going to know exactly how to win those gunfights.
A huge push there on P2 at a JCSU to get that time to stop, as it's pretty deadlocked here. We make this trek over to P3 yet again to the back of the library. There's one player here for VCU. It's Timmy trying to do his best to play his life. Tries to get away from Tempest, but no. You won't be able to do that, and this is a solid setup here for JCSU, a chance to start to get this lead back where they had it. But you see the push coming through on your mini-map from the white team. It's all coming through the street in the bank side. Crook with a big kill to open things up on the back end, and they realize it now. They have to slow down this push. Tempest changing his focus over to the back of the library. He's going to fall to Crook as well. The opening for VCU, and they're taking advantage of it, but they still have to get the kill off the hill. Kays is soaking up the time. It's a 20-point lead. He takes some shots, finally goes down. And the long routes pay off for VCU, but are they able to get on the hill is the question.
we do see right there, Crook is there on the point. So they did get that infiltration from the window. They did find a way to manage themselves out, and Crook is holding himself down as best as possible while he's got his teammates kind of setting up for those spawns. But, I mean, all in all, right now, you shouldn't really be looking at that. You should, while you had that guy grabbing that scrap time, getting those 7 seconds together, you need to be looking at these rotations, going ahead and getting set up on street, because as we can see from our point of view, JCSU is already set up for it, and they beat you to the cut right there.
Yeah, it's been rotations, it's been breaks from both teams, just trading blows here. Muhammad Ali versus Sonny Liston right now. Still deadlocked, and it's this hill that's been so difficult for either team to grab a whole chunk of time. You just know there's going to be players in these power positions gunning you down. Sheik laying it down right now. He finds one on the player and Bus. Zay playing the finesse over by the car. Is going to be in a tough spot as the contest comes through. Trying to see if he can get a sightline onto one of these players. Finally, teammates in support are going to pick up some kills for him as he soaks up the time. Huge plays from the QBZ in the back out of K's. The new meta makes its way into Cold War. The XM4 is out the window. In comes the QBZ. Still a battle for time on the P4 hill. We get ready for another rotation. It's going to be Ventric in this spot again, trying to soak up some time before he falls.
Yeah, and I'm seeing a lot of these situations where these guys are continuing to fight. They're trying to make these pushes. They're trying to continuously get into these engagements and win these gunfights and get them extra time on the point. But when you're in the shoes of JCSU, when you're prone behind that car like the likes of Tempest and Zay and Case, we're all set up around in that vehicle area. I mean, you just need to play it slow, man. It's okay if you sit there and you're having contested time. Overall, I mean, it's great to grab points, but if that time dwindles down and you're already you're in the lead, who cares if you don't hit 250? You're grabbing a win and you're finishing out this series and finding a way to manage a win over these guys who have a huge roster, kind of like a positive roster ratio compared to what you guys got. So, I mean, when it really comes down to it, just take the little wins that you can to sit there and take down a Titan, and then that's a lot bigger bragging rights than saying, yo, I won that gunfight. Nobody's going to be looking back at that. They're going to be looking at this record and saying, even though it was hard fought, you won it.
Exactly. That's the stat category that matters most, wins and losses. And as the battle keeps to these hills, both teams butting heads, you start to wonder if it's just going to come down to one player making that alpha brain move to rotate around the backside and make a pinch happen. As the fight here for P2 goes down. Hayes versus Crook. He's going to find the kill with the QBZ, looking for some support from his teammates as he knows more players are close by. Ventric there for the trade. Tempest falls as well. VCU trying to push through the backside, but it's Zay in the power position. Top PD continuing to pick up the kills as they funnel on through. Kill feed still blue right now, and that's a good sign for JCSU as they try to close this match out here on Moscow.
You know, I feel like they completely have the potential to, because if they're going to hold down most of the time for this, hell, they could give up 1.5 points going forward. They haven't exactly been the best about, you know, P3 so far. So maybe they should go ahead and, while they just lost this point, go ahead and start trading out. And it looks like Zay's already a little bit ahead, but then he might be changing his mind, trying to turn back around, because, I mean, you got to shut these guys out. You guys have the spawns right now. You can easily win this with 25 seconds with each hard point being 40. I mean, you can easily take this win right here, especially with the likes of Rainbow already being set up on site and resetting these guys all the way back over there by apartments. So, I mean, just play it slow, and they got 20 seconds to hold out right here. If you can make this final stretch right now, it's an easy day for you guys.
The final hold in place as JCSU tries to close it out here on map 5. I'm sorry, on map 4. Only 8 seconds remaining is all they need. The push is not going to be there in time, and it looks like this is going to be all she wrote. JCSU will come out and win this one as the underdogs. They pick things up in 4 maps. Dominant performance in the Moscow hardpoint after losing map 1. Incredible stuff, and I mean, after Rambo has a big performance, this time it's an entire team performance that's able to get it done. You give VCU a lot of credit. They had some rotations in place, but it was the breaks, it was the overall pressure that JCSU was able to put on them that comes out victorious.
Yeah, and that's just huge for these guys right here, because, I mean, they finally found a way to get around to that P3 site, and I mean, prior on that last hard point, we saw these guys that came down to a last point. JCSU had a little bit more leeway and a little bit more free space to work with, a little more breathing room overall, not just in terms of games, but in terms of that match alone. They finally had the point advantage they were looking for. They finally established themselves well enough to put on P2 to where they said, okay, it's 20 seconds. You know what? Just give it to them. Who cares? I mean, we're not going to lock them in the 50-point club. We're not going to lock them in the 100-point club. Let's just go ahead, get set up for this P3. And that's exactly what they did. And they held it down extremely well. I mean, you could sit there. I mean, I even got my second monitor stream running. I mean, I'm seeing just picks back and forth from these guys, finding the ways to set themselves up, doing so extremely well to sit there and have every angle locked down. If you lose one, that's okay. As long as you have a guy set up on the side, a guy set up on point, which you got Rambo up there in front. I mean, it's usually a done day at that point if you can finally get the momentum running. And I mean, I think at that point, VCU, it'd be better for them if they just let that point void and said, let's go ahead and start trying to get the setup going. Because, I mean, with how close P5 is to P4, or no, excuse me, P3 is to P4. I mean, overall, it shouldn't be that big of a problem, but they didn't end up doing that, and that's really what cost them.
JCSU comes out victorious, and they move to 4-0 on Moscow Hardpoint. You look at it for VCU, maybe just catching them on the wrong map and mode. But overall, the records for VCU, it'll fall to 7-3. For JCSU, it'll go to 6-4, and they start to inch their way up into getting into that upper part of the split once that takes place. Really, really great showing from both of the squads. A lot of credit has to go out to them. And Mick, great to be on the desk with you. It looks like we'll go to a little break here. But you're not going to want to go too far because the next matchup, LC Lions and York Lions, the Battle of the Lions, the pride's taking after each other in a little while. Like I say, you're not going to want to go too far. Grab a drink, grab a snack, and come right back because when we are back, we're going to have more CCL action here in Week 6.